So let's get into the last game of Sunday night, which is Notre Dame Miami rivalry
Mm.
game. We can start with Carson Beck because to me, I wasn't really that high on him coming into this year. I really was one of those people who just thought, the talent, once the talent around him at Georgia kind of got into an even level playing field, that his true talent kind of rose to the table, and it just wasn't enough. Yes, they had receivers who dropped passes a lot last year, just uncharacteristically. The talent wasn't that great, but I just wasn't that high on him coming into the season. And as well as he played last night, well, he didn't play amazing, but he played well enough to at least for people like me to have to shut up and kind of eat it week one.
I was as high on Carson Beck as I was on any guy probably not named Arch Manning. Well, the way I saw him is he's a processor of the game and he can make the throws. Let me put in perspective for last season. Georgia, SEC Georgia, back-to-back national championship winning team Georgia was 100. Let me get it. Let me get the exact number. 102nd in rushing last season. They led all of college football in drops. The offensive line was not good. And everybody was like, Carson Beck stinks. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter what quarterback you had back there. No run game, receivers aren't catching the ball, and your offensive line is going to block for you. Who is going to have success with that formula? And so him going to Miami, my thought was he's probably going to throw for like 4,000 yards and they're going to lose like 4 games, but it's going to be electric the entire way through. And then you look at the defense, they're playing well. And then you look at Carson Beck making the same throws he made at Georgia, which were like 60-40 balls, 70-30 balls, and his guys are coming down with them. And you're like, yeah, that's a guy that you can win with. That's a guy that's going to push the ball down the field. And so for Carson, it's for him, I'm as excited for him and just happy for that guy because it felt like the whole of college football was like, he's not any good. He stinks. Kirby Smart was like, nah,
They
he can
shit
leave,
on him.
whatever.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it's like, hold on. And so I'm so over the moon for the guy. He really deserves it. And he's just an absolute rock star. Comes out and they win a game that people probably didn't see them winning. And all of a sudden, like they played the runner up to national championship last year.
Right.
And they felt like the tougher team. They felt like the more talented team. They felt like the team that had a little bit more juice. And so you're like, damn, is Carson Beck? Could he be a Heisman front runner? Maybe.
He might very well be. That was also a Miami crowd that I haven't seen in a really long time. Just
Agreed.
electric. It felt finally they play in an NFL stadium, so it always has that NFL game feel. It finally felt like a college football game in there.
Hmm.
And if they're gonna be a serious team, which usually they get the preseason hype, they get the 25, they get the top 25 ranking just because top 15 just because they look legit. CJ Dams with the one hand catch. I mean,
That was far.
plays like that are or give your QB confidence, give everybody else confidence that there's plays to be made on the field. You just have to be able to you have to trust them.
That and the quarterback makes the throws. Cam Ward
Right.
was not a scary quarterback either. He made the throws, but uh, Texas and Arch Manning, Clemson with Cade Klubnik. You look at these guys and they don't make those throws where they
They don't
trust
there's
the
no
guy
risk factor.
implicitly.
There's yeah.
And
There's
so
no
when
risk
you
factor.
get a guy like Carson Beck, he's been there, he's done it, he's won a championship, he's on your roster now, and he's throwing the ball to these guys. You're like, and by the way, if you watch it play, it feels like offense is kind of easy. Things are open, people are open, and this is a Notre Dame team that had a tremendous defense, and it kind of felt like Miami got whatever they wanted at times. And so,
Right.
a lot of credit to the offensive coordinator, a lot of credit to Carson Beck, and just his redemption, I think, run that's going to be this year.
Yeah. I will give some credit to CJ Carr, who kind of started the game off a little bit rough. He had three total touchdowns, led the team back just with some good plays individually.
Mhm.
I think after Riley Leonard leaves a quarterback like that, who is as big of a dual threat as he was, it's a hard replacement. And, Jeremiah Love, they have receiving talent, they have backfield talent is deeper than just Jeremiah Love. They have a good squad, and I think Notre Dame is going to contend all season. I just think that game was more about Miami, more about Carson Beck and what he was able to do and come back from. And, as much as I was hating on the kid, I hope it is a feel good story throughout this season because it'd be great for Miami to be good for college football. And if he's going to be good, then we need more elite quarterbacks to watch every Saturday. So if Miami's going to have Michael Irvin, Ray Lewis on the sidelines, if that's what it
Yeah,
takes to win, then
can't beat
shit,
that.
I guess it's what it is.
Let
Uh,
me so
Go ahead.
let me two things on one on Notre Dame. Let me start with Notre Dame. CJ Carr, good player, like really good player. It kind of makes you wonder if Riley Leonard was the perfect quarterback for that team in a way that he really wasn't going to make a ton of plays, and so they had to be really balanced. You get a guy like CJ Carr who probably has a nice upside to his game. Probably a pretty decent college quarterback. And if Marcus Freeman were to leave to go somewhere, like maybe he does next year, the year after, like CJ Carr could probably follow him or go somewhere else. You look at that Notre Dame offense and you're like, man, CJ Carr, he can really play. Let's put the ball in his hands a lot and see what he does. You probably have the best running back in the country on your roster,
Mhm.
and until the fourth quarter, really wasn't featured at all.
Right.
Borderline was like, is he hurt? Is he okay? Like that's how much of like a ghost he was. And so I'm wondering if a team like Notre Dame won last year because Riley Leonard made some plays, but we were all like, that guy is not good enough to win national championship on his own. But his roster, the composite of his roster, is. I'm wondering if
Mhm.
CJ Carr is if they're leaning on him too much in his talent, which there's some there, but he's not good enough to win a national championship. I don't think so right now. I don't know if they're leaning on him too much that this could lead down a path where they end up dropping, and their schedule isn't great, but they end up dropping
Right.
a couple of games that they shouldn't because they're leaning on him too much and not their running game and not being a tough football team like they're designed to be.
And their running back room is deep, and so the
Very.
leaning on the run game needs to be the first and foremost focus of this program going forward. And if you're going to win games, you're going to milk the hell out of these running backs. That's what the great teams do, and you figure out the wear and tear later. But you're asking you're asking these quarterbacks who you're not even recruiting that type of quarterback. Like
Correct.
you're not even recruiting these pocket QBs who you're asking to complete 23, 24 passes a game. You
Yeah.
want these guys completing 17 to 18, 18 for 26, 18 for 27, maybe 27.
A lot
And
of
you
play
want him
action.
and
Yeah.
but you want these guys built to be able to run through the tackles. And that's a lot to ask for the quarterback, but if that's what you're going to recruit, then that's the way you're going to scheme up. And what that does is it when you have a quarterback that can run like that, I think naturally you just want to get the ball to the guy who's getting the ball the fastest. And so if the quarterback is able to go through the tackles, well then we're going to call it pass plays, but we're also going to just line up in the pistol or line up in the shotgun and we're just going to run our QB forward for 3 or 4
Yeah.
yards. And that takes a toll on the quarterback, of course, but if that's how you're going to win games, then you're going to have to stick to that. And
Well,
I just don't
yeah.
know if I don't know if Notre Dame has the receivers to ask for them to get the separation because I don't know if CJ Carr is going to be able to make those throws.
So their receiving room is improved from what I guess the offseason, crowd has talked about all the boards and everything. So it's supposed to
Yeah.
be better. The thing about a running quarterback is first off, if you have the best running back in the country, probably don't need to be running a quarterback all that much. But to your point, with a running quarterback, it's the highest leverage play because you could have essentially all 10 guys blocking for this
Right.
guy versus with the running back you have essentially nine because the quarterback's not going to block anybody. So you do get the added advantage of having an additional blocker out there. But like, do you want your best running back in the country blocking or do you want him with the ball making plays? And so I guess just kind of a weird like mix on offense for them. My question to you would be, what do you see with Marcus Freeman? So year two, national championship runner up. Year three, team's okay. He loses. He doesn't get a seasoned quarterback, and so it's going to be an up and down year, which they don't play a great schedule. So they'll be in the playoff. That's not a big deal at all. They play Texas A&M, I think. Is he a guy that you look at and you say, okay, he's with Notre Dame, has success. If one of these jobs open up, or one of these buyouts isn't crazy, and its school has the money, do they boot a guy off and pick up a Marcus Freeman? And if so, who do you think maybe he lands with next
I
year?
think he's probably the hottest coaching candidate going forward, considering his age,
Yeah.
demographic, and just how he carries himself.
Mhm.
Mind you, he coaches at Notre Dame.
Correct.
Not that many guys getting in Notre Dame. Like, let's be
No.
honest. There's a lot of guys with a lot of talent that could definitely play at Notre Dame, but don't have the grades. And all those guys are going south.
Yeah.
So if Frank or if not if he decides to go south, if Freeman decides to go to a Texas, whoever opens up down south, or maybe out west, even at USC, who knows what happens with Lincoln Riley. If he
True.
can go to one of those schools, I think that he hasn't tapped into what he could possibly be as a head coach. I don't know what he is schematically, but I know what he is as far as creating an environment and being a head coach and a leader of men that people rally around. And that
Mhm.
has to count for something, considering you've got Notre Dame back to where, most Notre Dame fans would expect them to be, which is contending for a national title. Me, truthfully, I don't think Notre Dame ever is going to have the talent to actually win a national championship. And if that's what Freeman wants to do, I mean, maybe he is, maybe the right job has to open up. Maybe it is literally just Texas, USC, or maybe it is the Bama job. I could 100% see Freeman in Alabama, 100%. And if DeBoer is going to have another piss poor year, I really do think that it sucks. But a lot of these entities, a lot of businesses around the world, they they bow down to the knee of a lot of the fans and what their customers and what they think. And it could get really loud for DeBoer. And they don't make the playoffs again. It could be as simple as, well, we're donors, we're alumni. We're not giving money to the program if this guy's going to be the head coach. So you either better buy him out or you fire him, you get the buyout, and then you go get a guy that we're going to put money behind, and that's what we're going to do. And I think that's the kind of constant pressure that these ADs and these school presidents and these GMs are going to be under. Is that these fans and these donors who are a big lump sum of what's going to be coming in every single year to keep everybody paid, the whole school paid, not just football, but basketball and the other sports. Well, it starts with football. And if no one's giving money to these programs, then you're gonna have to you're going where the money is. That's what everybody's doing. And if Freeman's the best choice, and they're gonna take whatever they can to get him out of Notre Dame. I don't know if Notre Dame is his dream job, but I don't think he's ever said that on a mic. So until he says that, then he's a candidate for any of these schools who decide to be bad the next couple of years.
Nobody wants to be in South Bend, Indiana. I went there for a wedding. It is not, no, sir. And it's cold. Absolutely not. I remember when I was at personal story, when I was at JUCO, we were playing a team in Indiana and we walked through on Notre Dame's campus on one of the practice fields. We would do that. We
Mhm.
would stop at a college and like coaches might do some recruiting or whatnot, whatever.
Mhm.
And we were at Notre Dame and I remember we were walking off the field and one of the guys like was walking by or drove by and he's like, dude, you have every reason to come to Notre Dame, except there are no girls here. And I was like, well, there's that. And that's just a random student saying that to a random person he has no idea about. And so you think about how hard it is to recruit. You're up north, it's cold. You have a style of play that's not super like sexy for wide
Right.
receivers, for quarterbacks, running backs it is. But you go down south, it's warm, it's nice, and like you have everything there. Well, it's a lot easier. And let me we you touched on it earlier, and we'll kind of segue into this if it's okay with you, talking about the out of conference games and if it's worth it to schedule these
Yeah.
as we go forward. So I think the simple answer is no, it's not worth to schedule these. However, we talk about rev share coming next year. We talk about the money flowing in from these media companies. Fox, ESPN, they're not paying to watch Ohio
Right.
State
And they're
Marshall.
not, yeah, they're not,
They're
they're
not.
not doing it. That
They're
is
not going to pay for
over.
it.
So you set a precedent right now with Fox, Texas, and
Ohio
Ohio
State.
State.
Yeah.
Next year cannot be, it can't be Texas versus, it's got to damn near be Texas, Georgia.
Has to
It's
be.
got to be,
Out of conference. Yeah,
they
something like
can't,
that.
and it really can't even be Oregon. Like it's got to be like,
You got to have your big
it's
names.
it's
Oregon has
it's
to
three
be,
or
yeah.
four school it's
Yeah.
three or four schools and they have to be playing each other because the
Yeah.
money that's coming in from Fox and ESPN, you got to make it back. And everything's about ratings now. And how many ratings can we produce in this week and that week? Next week, you're gonna see a crazy 2-3 million number. Actually next week you don't really have that much. We'll get into
A couple
KU's
games.
soon. But during the season, I mean, these networks are fighting for these spots in week 5 and week 6. And, you're just kind of hoping that a Texas can hang on and only have one loss until then. But these week 1 or week 2 matchups, those are gold because guys are fresh. There's no injuries. The storylines aren't as deep. Players are still having a chance to either bounce back or come off of a hot game. Like the storylines are super fresh. So you're not going to get teams or networks vying for week 7, week 8.
They're not paying for it.
They're
And,
not
and
paying for it.
it's a fantastic point. And that's exactly where I think the future of this goes is you have these coaches with these huge buyouts. You have all this money that's about to funnel in. They're about to get a ton of money from these rev shares. And you're going to get these big games, which means you're going to have coaches every week one. It's like that guy's kind of on the hot seat because let's assume Alabama wins and Florida State loses. Well, then the Florida State head coach is kind of in a weird spot where it's like Michael Norvell, what has he done really? Like,
Right.
yeah, he
He
went
went 2 and
undefeated.
10 last year, and then you get blown out by Bama week 1. It's like we obviously cannot compete with the big dogs. So yeah, the
So
storyline flips totally.
So it 100%. And so you start getting money flowing in. And again, and you mentioned Oregon, fantastic point. USC, same thing because Fox Sports loves big noon kickoff. I'm not kicking the football off at 10 a.m. in Los Angeles or in Oregon,
Eugene.
Eugene,
Yeah.
Oregon. I'm not doing it. So it has to be an East Coast or down South team. And so you're going to have to get a Texas, a Alabama, a Georgia, a somebody to play an up North team, Ohio State, and Michigan, and who,
Michigan.
Penn State,
Yeah.
whoever. And like those are the matches that you start to get, and which means that you're going to get big brawls every first week. Now it kind of leads to like a weird like week two matchup. It's kind of sucks
Right.
this week,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, like that's what you're going to get. And so you look at a guy like Coach Freeman at Notre Dame, like he is a great candidate for one of these jobs, and his name never is probably the most relevant after a week one loss at a program that you expected to come out swinging.